How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the LAIR. And today we are going to be doing the deck tech for the best of 3 video that I'm going to be recording for tomorrow. But before we get into it, I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. It's free to you and helps us out so much. Feel free to drop me a comment, talk about strategy, deck ideas, misplays. I read the comments daily. And if you have any friends or family that are into Magic, please share the channel with them. One last thing that I'd like to say for all of my new followers or subscribers on either my Twitch or YouTube channels, once you do, just reach out to me in the chat or the comment and say something like, hey, I just followed or subscribed, and I can respond to you with an in-game code that you can use in Arena to unlock a mystery gift from Wizards. So very excited to be able to offer that to you guys. So yeah, let's hop into it. So like I said, this is going to be a best of 3 deck. I call this one Genesis Preypiercer. We're going to be using Obosh as our companion. So he is a 3/5, and his companion requirements say that your starting deck contains only cards with odd converted mana costs and land cards. And then his ability, if a source you control with an odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. Onto the 1-drops, of course, we're running the full play set of Edgewall Innkeeper. He's a 1/1, and whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure card, an adventure, draw a card. Onto the 3-drops, we're running 2 copies of Glasspool Mimic. This is a module dual land, so it can either enter the battlefield tapped and produce blue mana, or we can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature we control, except it's a shapeshifter rogue in addition to its other types. Running 2 copies of Brazen Borrower, the adventure side at Petty Theft at instant speed. Return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. And then his creature side, he's a 3/1 with flash and flying, and he can only block creatures with flying. Running the full playset of Bonecrusher Giant, the adventure side, Stomp at instant speed. Damage can't be prevented this turn, and Stomp deals 2 damage to any target. And then his creature side, he's a 4/3, and whenever he becomes the target of a spell or ability, Bonecrusher Giant deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. Running 2 copies of Cultivate at sorcery speed. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, and put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle your library. Running the full play set of Lovestruck Beast, the adventure side, Heart's Desire at sorcery speed. We create a 1/1 white human creature token, and then his creature side, he's a 5/5, and he can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature. Running the full play set of Kazandu Mammoth or Kazandu Valley, another module land card. Can either enter the battlefield tapped and produce green mana, or the creature side, he's a 3/3 with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, he gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. Onto the 5-drops, we're running the full play set of Terror of the Peaks. He's a 5/4 with flying, and it says spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 to cast, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Running 2 copies of Vivien, Monster's Advocate. She comes in at 3 loyalty, and her static abilities say, you may look at the top card of your library anytime, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. And then her +1 ability, create a 3/3 green beast creature token, put your choice of vigilance counter, a reach counter, or trample counter on it. And then her -2 ability, when you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser converted mana cost, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Onto the top end, we have the full play set of Beanstalk Giant, his adventure side, Fertile Footsteps at sorcery speed. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. And then his creature side, Beanstalk Giant's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. And then running 2 copies of Genesis Ultimatum at sorcery speed. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, put any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand, and then exile Genesis Ultimatum. And then finally 2 copies of the Great Henge as a legendary artifact. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control, and then we can tap it and add 2 green mana and gain 2 life. And it says whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. Excuse me. So let's briefly talk about the mana base. We have 3 islands, 3 mountains, 3 forests, the full playset of Riverglide or Riverglide Pathway, the full playset of Timbercrown or Cragcrown Pathway, the full playset of Ketria Triome, and 3 Fabled Passage. So what is this deck about? This is an adventure deck built around Edgewall Innkeeper and the adventure package. The difference is we're adding Obosh for that extra punch to get through and just do massive amounts of damage. We're also running the Terror of the Peaks. This card is insane with this particular setup. Having a Terror of the Peaks and then slamming a Genesis Ultimatum, putting like a Beanstalk Giant down, or Kazandu or any of these other creatures, and we're just doing all that damage to the face. And then if we have an Obosh, the damage is doubled. It's pretty self-explanatory. Vivien, because we're running 28 creatures, usually finds a target off the top, and also being able to put out other creatures that have reach and whatnot if we don't have a flyer down for all those pesky rogues and everything like that is very useful. Also being able to do our -2 and then you know, find another creature, especially if we have a Terror of the Peaks on the board, like I said. Great Henge is an amazing card. We can easily cast it on turn 3 or 4 if we have one of our main creatures down, and then it just gets so much value by ramping us, gaining us life, drawing us cards. It does everything. Beanstalk Giant, once again, helps us ramp, and it by the time we play it, it's such a massive creature. And once again, if we have an Obosh and a Terror of the Peaks, we just one turn kill our opponent usually most of the time. So this deck, like I said, is designed for best of 3. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the sideboard now. So for Mystical Disputes, at instant speed, this spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a blue spell, otherwise counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. We have 3 copies of Soul Seer at instant speed. Soul Seer deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and that permanent loses indestructible until the end of turn. Running 1 copy of Garruk's Harbinger. He's a 4/3 with hexproof from black. And whenever Garruk's Harbinger deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may reveal a creature card or a Garruk planeswalker card from among them and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Running 2 copies of Thrashing Bronodon. He's a 3/4, and we can pay 1, sacrifice him, and destroy target artifact or enchantment. Running 2 copies of Klothys, God of Destiny. She's a 4/5 with indestructible. It says as long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Klothys isn't a creature. And at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a land card, we add either a red or green mana, or otherwise we gain 2 life, and Klothys deals 2 damage to each opponent. And then finally 2 copies of Ox of Agonas. He's a 4/2, and when he enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. And we can escape him from our graveyard by paying 2, exiling 8 other cards from our graveyard, and when he escapes, he enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So, obviously, when we play our first round, we won't be having any of these cards. We put in the Mystical Dispute if we're playing rogues for Into the Story, or if we're dealing with another control deck where we want to resolve some of our bigger threats, hold up the Mystical Dispute, and counter. So those are what the Mystical Disputes were. Soul Seers for more aggressive decks, your Heliod's, other creatures that have indestructible. This is a great way to deal with them. Garruk's Harbinger helps us search for our many creatures too, and it's a little bit lower to the ground than Vivien. Thrashing Bronodon's in there for the Gruul, other mirror matches, like if we need to take out a Great Henge or an Embercleave, anything like that. Klothys is in here for the rogues and the Rakdos mid-range decks, and then Ox of Agonas is also for the Rakdos mid-range and rogues matchups. Yeah, so that's pretty much the deck. That's all I have for you guys today. Like I said, this is going to be the preview for tomorrow's episode, where I will be playing this deck in best of 3. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll end it at that. I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut the fuck out of here. If you're new, shut up. You're gonna go in your house. All right, go in your house. Get in your house. Get in your house. In your house. There we are. Sorry about that. Dog's going crazy. We'll end it at that, and I just wanted to say one more time, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. It's free to you and helps us out so much. Feel free to drop me a comment, talk about strategy, deck ideas, misplays. I read the comments daily. And if you have any friends or family that are into Magic, please share the channel with them. And don't forget, if you're going to be a new follower or subscriber on either my Twitch or YouTube channels, once you've done so, just reach out to me in the chat or the comment and say something like, hey, I just followed or subscribed. And I can respond to you with an in-game code that you can use in Arena to unlock a mystery gift from Wizards. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.